Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Red Loosey podcast. My name is Loosey and today I'm here with Gabriel Evans. He is a West Australian author-illustrator of picture books. He illustrates his own books as well as illustrating for several other acclaimed authors, and his books have been sold in Australia and the USA. So welcome Gabriel, how are you?
I'm good, and how are you, Lucy?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
No worries, and we're going to start by doing a bit of a quick fire round.
Yep.
So just choose the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Smart or casual?
Casual.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Ooh, at the moment, non-fiction.
Does it change?
It does change.
Reading or writing?
Reading or writing? At the moment, writing. Very much so.
Left or right?
Right.
TV shows or movies?
TV shows at the moment.
Night or day?
A day.
Sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Rain or shine?
Rain.
Invisibility or flight?
Flight.
Cafe or restaurant?
Cafe.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. I saw on your website that you drink a lot of coffee.
And tea.
So now to go into the longer questions. How long...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Has anyone ever said invisibility, or has everyone always said flight?
I think we've had a bit of a mixture.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought everyone would go flight.
No, I'd go invisibility.
You'd go invisibility.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can like
there you go.
sneak into places. Not that I would, but like.
But I'd fly into places. I
Oh,
think that'd
that's
be a lot
true.
more entertaining.
Yeah, I've had a couple people say invisibility. I think I can think of a couple people.
Yeah.
I think Bren McDibble did, but
Oh, God.
yeah.
I'm curious now. It's the question that's got me curious.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So how long have you been interested in writing?
So I have always had an interest in writing, but I probably had more of an interest in drawing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got into the book industry as an illustrator. Writing has always been a little bit of a passion. I used to, as a kid, enter writing competitions. As I was being an illustrator, the more I illustrated, the more I began to get interested with the development of a story through writing and illustrating.
Yeah.
And so probably in the last 5 years, I've really seriously got into the writing
Yeah,
and
kind of
enjoyed
like
it.
knuckle down. And
Yeah. I've just found, I guess I've found just a real passion for how words and pictures can both tell a story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that are incredible at drawing and
Yeah.
illustrating, but they don't believe that they can make a career out of it. What was the turning point for you when you realised that you could be an illustrator?
I came in knowing, pretty much everyone told me from the start that making a career from art was like almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I came in with basically everyone around me telling me that. So that has always been kind of at the forefront of my mind. But at the same time, I was looking at people around me in the industry who were making a career. And so I thought, well, it is possible. And so I always just kind of went in with that mindset of knowing it might not happen, but it is possible.
Yeah.
And it was really the matter of trying to be the best I could be in this industry for myself, like, perfecting my craft.
Yeah, so it's hard, but you're going to give it a shot.
Absolutely, give it a shot. When I was starting out at that point, like I didn't have any, I wasn't trying to build a house, I didn't have kids, so I thought, well, this is the perfect time to give this sort of career a shot.
And what advice would you give anyone who wants to go into that industry?
Yeah, what advice? I would say be open to advice from people. Look at what other people are doing in the industry as well. If you're wanting to get into books, go and look at what the latest books are.
Yeah.
Read, study what is kind of ticking in the market, but at the same time be true to yourself. So don't try and copy a style in the market, because in the end styles, if there's a fashion, it is a fashion that goes out. But just be aware of what's around, be constantly open. Like personally, I am constantly excited by new books, by new illustrators. I'm always, and by artists, not just illustrators. And I'm constantly seeing how they go about creating their craft. So I think just always have this curiosity, and also a sketchbook.
Yeah, definitely.
I can never talk up a sketchbook more
Yeah.
is such an important tool for me personally.
Yeah.
Some people don't use a sketchbook much, but for me, if there is something that I struggle to draw with, especially when you're starting out, like as an example, people, you know, in your sketchbook, you try and tackle those problems and you try and overcome those issues you might have, because that just makes you a stronger artist.
Yeah. Do you have ideas like suddenly hit you?
Yeah, I would say ideas will come to me when I'm doing other things, but most of the time I'm finding it's I've sort of been training my brain a little bit to have it in my sketchbook storming time when I'm sketchbook brainstorming time, where I'm just sitting there and I'm just working on characters, I'm working on concepts, and I find my brain sort of saves up those ideas and then starts releasing them when I'm having that kind of brainstorming time. But even then, I can never tell when those brainstorming times will work for me. So.
And can you tell us a bit about your latest book, A Human for Kingsley?
A Human for Kingsley. Well, I'm just going to hold that up for now. A Human for Kingsley. Well, this is one of those books that came about during a brainstorming time. But what happened was I was just drawing characters in my sketchbook, and I just drew this dog, this big kind of shaggy dog, and he just had this really intense kind of focus and attitude. And I just thought, okay, this guy's got a story. And I sort of thought to myself, well, maybe he's searching for something. And then I thought, well, he looks like the kind of dog who's so independent. He probably doesn't have an owner. And then I thought maybe he's looking for a human. You know, he's not the kind of dog to wait around and let a human choose him. He chooses a human.
Yeah.
And from that kind of concept, I developed the story. And it probably took me about a week to kind of fully form that story.
Yeah. So the idea kind of came about from that just one little sketch.
Yeah, and I wasn't really sure if I would do anything with it. I probably wouldn't have developed it as fast as I would have. But my editor saw the sketch and asked me what the character was about.
Yeah.
And I kind of gave her this concept that I've been playing with, and she said, oh yeah, great, we would love to make this into a book.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I've got to work on
Yeah,
the story
let's
now.
go.
And so I worked on that story over the week, and then it got commissioned straight away.
Yeah.
And that was back in late 2019.
Yeah.
And finished it last year. It's coming out in May, which is very exciting.
I've read through it, and it is like the sweetest picture book story I've ever read. I loved it so much.
Thank you.
And the illustrations are beautiful.
Thank you. And the little girl.
Yes.
Did you like her?
Yes, I did.
She is kind of roughly based on my younger sister.
Yeah.
And she just has this real sassy attitude.
Yeah.
Which, I thought she was
Yeah.
a perfect kind of like foil for Kingsley.
Yeah. Do you kind of like make characters based off real people, like for that little girl?
Not normally. In that instance, maybe there was a little bit of a real person in my sister. But for me, it's the character just grows uniquely and independently in my mind and just becomes this fully fledged character. And you know, the chances are I probably have pulled on people I know.
Yeah.
But most of the time I wouldn't be able to tell you who they are.
Yeah, kind of subconsciously.
Yeah.
And let me see, a bit of an odd one, but I read on your website that you once made a boat out of a kitchen sink.
Yeah.
So what was that about?
Well, I mean, you've said it. I made a boat out of a kitchen sink. I was a bit bored one day, and I thought, hey, I wanted a boat. I couldn't afford a boat. I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I can't afford a boat, I will make a boat. So I was looking around at objects I had, and I thought,
Kitchen sink.
Kitchen sink. There's this kitchen sink, and obviously there's a hole. There's this plug hole, and I thought, okay, sorry, my phone's buzzing.
No, that's
Should
alright.
have put that on. And I thought, well, I'll just put a plastic bag with an elastic band, which is a little stupid because when you're sitting in this boat, the pressure pushing down, the pressure of water pushing up through the plug hole, and it's a plastic bag holding it.
Yeah,
it
not
came
very
off
strong.
pretty much straight away, and I just kind of like sank down, and then I had to pull the sink out of the river, which was pretty heavy.
Where did you get a kitchen sink from?
It was my parents. They just had a random old kitchen sink.
I mean,
I don't
like
know
you
why
do.
they had a kitchen sink, but it was there, and it was begging to be used as a boat. And
Yeah, it's just there.
There we go.
Of course. So what message do you want to convey through your picture books?
That's a funny one. I don't come in when I'm creating my picture books. I don't come in to create to have a message. The message forms by itself. So when I'm making a book, for me, it's about finding a character that interests me, finding a problem or a scenario that they're in, and so if it is a problem, for me, it's about them overcoming that problem and then wrapping it up, and somehow that message independently finds itself.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in Norton and the Bear, when I developed those characters, it was about the concept of, hey, there's this dog, he loves dressing uniquely. One day this bear starts copying his look, and he keeps trying to change his look so he's independent again. This bear's just copying him, and it was sort of based on, you know, when you're a kid and you've got like a sibling that copies you.
Yeah.
And then sort of like you end up wrapping it up, and then the message sort of comes out from that, and you go, okay, yes. Yeah, so it I guess subconsciously that message comes through, but I don't set out to create some sort of learning.
It sort of arrives after you.
It arrives, and for me, I find that's important because I don't always enjoy a picture book when it's clear they're trying to teach me something.
Yeah, definitely.
But saying that also depends on the picture book.
Yeah.
Sometimes I pick up a picture book and I want it to teach me something. It really depends on that book.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
And do you have a favourite character or book that you have illustrated?
Do I have a favourite character or book?
Or is it like
I've
choosing
illustrated?
children?
Each book has its own sort of has something about it that I really love. So it's hard to choose, but they all have characters that I really love. So for instance, in Ollie and Augustus the big dog, I've been working on him for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And I just really loved his big placid nature. But Norton and the Bear, their characters were incredibly real to me, and I really identified with Norton as being this kind of fairly, you know, he keeps himself to himself, and I really loved his attitude. But I found when I've gone into schools, it's the bear that children really identify with and really love.
Yeah.
Humour for Kingsley. I mean, Kingsley I just love. I just
think
he's just got such a... He's so incredibly serious with his focus. So at the moment, I guess I would say he's my favourite. But then again, I have been working with him probably the most recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, every character, there's something. I mean, there's a reason I've created them.
Yeah.
And so each character I kind of hold quite close.
Yeah. And last but not least, to put you on the spot, I actually have a sketchbook.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you'd draw anything at all.
Anything
and
at all?
Just go ahead, you know.
Well,
And
I
there's
mean,
2 pencils if you need.
2 pencils.
Yeah.
I'll
Just
just
to be
use one.
extra.
Okay, so
So yeah, do whatever you want.
I think I'm gonna have to draw Kingsley
Of course.
because you know he's the man of the moment. So Kingsley, when I'm drawing Kingsley, I start off with an upside down triangle, and I give him a big nose beard like this, and depending on how he's feeling, often he's, like we said, he's very focused. He's looking forward to solving a problem or getting something in his life, and because of this, he always has a very focused look. And his eyebrows kind of go down a little bit as he's kind of focusing. And his eyebrows go down and his ears also go down. So his ears point forward like he's on a mission. And then he's got this kind of little bit of trendy looking hair flicking out. Kingsley's made up of scribbles. So
Scribbles everywhere.
when I draw him, there are just a whole mass of scribbles. But firstly, I'll find his body with this line here. And then I'll bring in the scribbles, and they go down like this. And once I've brought those scribbles in, I come in with some thicker, more dense scribbles, just to give him a little bit of form. So there we go. Now he's got the front of his tummy.
Coming together.
And then I do even darker scribbles again, and I draw in his feet and his back legs. And I'm glad you gave me 2 pencils. I'm using this pencil up really quickly. And then I finish off with his tail like this. And I'd like to think that he is focused on finding the perfect, I don't know, bone. So, though that seems a little bit, you know, I think Kingsley probably is looking for something a little bit more complex than a bone, but you know, he's found one. So, and of course, you always finish off with a signature.
Yes.
Which is very hard to write.
Like holding it up. Wow, look at that! It's Kingsley. And how often have you drawn him? I mean, obviously there's a lot of illustrations of him in your book.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times he features in my book, but however many times he's featured, I've drawn him probably 150 times before that.
Again and again and again.
Yeah, because when I'm developing the story, I draw him doing different things, and most of those concepts don't end up in the book. Yeah. But the more you draw him, the more you get to know his character.
Yeah, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on. It's nice to be part of the podcast. So
and thank you so much to everyone for watching this episode of the Red Loosey podcast. And thank you again, Gabriel, for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and share with all your friends. Goodbye and keep reading. Woo!